It's a nice day for a Friday afternoon stream. And the Hollywood gods have smiled upon us, and we actually have some pretty decent stories to discuss. Happy birthday, Vin! It's so nice to see everybody. Just Josh, welcome back. Brandon, thanks for joining. And I think, yep, that's everybody who just joined today. It's so nice to see everybody. Just to give you a happy Friday to you too, Danny. You guys are great. It's super slow. It's still super slow. But I think that things are going to start picking up hopefully on Sunday with the Super Bowl trailers. And then there's a lot going on next week as well. So that's going to be nice, with Madam Web coming out. At the very least, there'll be something for us to discuss, good or bad. So the way these live streams work, of course, as always, is try to keep your comments and your questions to the story at hand. And if you ask them or say them before I open up each story to questions and comments, I might not be able to answer your question. I'm sorry. Lloyd Lester, I did see that it's National Pizza Day, but I can't eat pizza, so I'm sad about it. I wish that I could partake in National Pizza Day. And then at the end of the stream, you can ask me anything you'd like for the final 10 minutes of the stream. That's what they're for. And then, of course, I will then do the shout outs. So it's a big day for directors. Now, some things that I want to point out about directors. First off, yes, I did see the David Leitch headline, but we only have 3 stories we can discuss in a day. And just so if you didn't see it, David Leitch, who we just discussed, was potentially going to direct Jurassic World. Well, now he's not, because apparently there was a creative difference in between the way that he wanted to go with the franchise and the way Universal wanted to go with the franchise. But to me, who on earth has creative differences that get them out of directing a Jurassic World movie? I'd be like, David, just do what the studio wants. How bad could it be? Especially because, I'm just using some of my hand cream. But anyway, David Leitch is not exactly an artiste. They're not like, what do you want to do, David? I mean, quite frankly, if I were a Universal executive and David Leitch told me he had creative differences with me, I'd be like, this is shocking, David. I wouldn't think you'd have any creative opinions at all, and that you would just be so thrilled that we were going to hire you to direct the new Jurassic World movie. So I guess he's going to go and direct the Donnie Yen Kung Fu movie after all. Oh, thanks, Danny. So I'm really surprised. That's right, Dan O'Leary. You would think David Leitch was a good soldier. That's, in my opinion, his whole entire selling point. So the fact that he ended up having suddenly his own march into his own drum is very bizarre, in my opinion. So let's see who they get. By the way, if you are ever offered the opportunity to level up your career in that regard, I would advise you, it can't be that bad, whatever Universal is suggesting. Hey, Heather, thank you for gifting some memberships. Although Ben's thrilled that he's not directing because he would, I think it's actually, let's see who they pick. But I think it's potentially actually somewhat better for the franchise. Weird for David Leitch, better for the franchise. That would be hilarious, Adam Byers, if Bryce Dallas Howard came in and directed. I don't know. Let's not play it. Let's not futz around with the Jurassic World movie. That's right, Dan O'Leary. Let's go back to James Wan. He was a good suggestion. Jonathan agrees. Then something I wanted to point out about, you can't put Chad Stahelski in there, Pratik. There's no fighting dinosaurs. That'd be hilarious. That dinosaur has a gun. You'd be like, that's insane, but I must watch it. All right, the other thing, I have to ding the directors a little bit. Hold on. I guess Fridays are a little spicy too. The reason I want to ding directors is because I have some friends who are writers. Hey, Not Modern Art, thank you for gifting a membership. And I thought it was pretty crazy that the directors did not go on strike. They struck a crappy deal, and then because of the rules in Hollywood, with unions, they were able to, after the strikes, renegotiate their deal to get the same thing that the writers got. So the actors and the writers went on strike for months and lost tons of revenue and earnings. And yet the directors didn't lose a day of work. Maybe they might have been affected by the writers and the actors being on strike, but then they ended up with the exact same lucrative deal that the writers got. I don't think that should be allowed. And, there's nothing anybody can do about it because, Hollywood needs to move forward. The Yahtzee, the people who work behind the camera, the crew members, they're on the verge of going on strike. And it's like the industry can't take it. So they're in actually a pretty good position where I think hopefully the studios just give them whatever they want, because the studio Hollywood cannot afford another massive strike that shuts it down. These last 2 months have been brutal. They just cannot take it. So good for Yahtzee. That's good. Yahtzee had to be supportive of the writers and the actors, and they lost tons of revenue themselves without being on strike. So I hope this comes back to benefit them. But the directors, they still were able to sign deals. They still were able to do some work. They didn't have to go on the picket line and get into arguments with anybody, and yet they still get the same lucrative deal that the writers fought for. So you can't say anything about a director, but if I were a writer, at some point I'd be like, oh, revenge is a dish best served cold, my friend. I just have to bring that up because it's so bad. Yahtzee is actually how I remember how to pronounce that group. I was calling them Yahtzee, and people were like, no, it's Yahtzee, like the game. And so I was like, all right, let's be confusing. Fine with me. Although I've never played Yahtzee. Maybe once. I don't think I've ever played Yahtzee. All right, let's get on to today's actual stories, but I just had to bring it up. All right, hold on. Here we go. Story number 1. Boop. Oh, David Zaslav apparently doesn't care if you hate him. He trended number 1 this morning. He's like, I don't care. He dries his tears with his money, like that Woody Harrelson gif. I think maybe Zazzy felt nobody would pay attention to it. Maybe he thought he could get away with it, but he didn't. But at the same degree, maybe he did. We'll see how it all plays out. But this is fascinating. Oh, it's Hollywood drama at its finest. All right, so the new Hollywood is that, particularly because of conversations that we have like that, people and, regular, people outside of the industry pay attention to deals and executives. They used to have anonymity. And if they stabbed someone in the back, no one knew about it, but those are other people in the industry. So now everybody is aware of this deal gone south. All right, twice, because everybody thought they'd saved Coyote versus Acme. But now it seems that they did not. And some people are saying that Warner Brothers this was always the plan, that they always just hoped that they could give a little mini reprieve, and then just down the line, hopefully everybody would lose interest and they would be able to quietly get rid of the movie. Nope, unfortunately, they decided to shelve the movie while things are very quiet right now. So there ain't nothing else to talk about. So it was able to trend number 1. Now, here's the real question, though. Who's talking about this deal not working out? Who's talking to the press? Because that's how it got out. The Wrap had an article about it. And I have a very strong suspicion that it's producer Chris DeFaria, because he's actually quoted in the article from the Wrap. They couldn't get any other quotes from anybody else associated with this movie, not even the director, Dave Green, who was more vocal beforehand. Now, who are these individuals? Chris DeFaria has produced a couple of movies. The last one was that Tom and Jerry live-action hybrid, which I think would make a bunch of us a little bit nervous about anything else that he does. And David Green, who directed this movie, directed the 2016 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, which did, okay, but they weren't going, we all still have to say, who the heck is Chris DeFaria and Dave Green? But who isn't saying a peep? Who hasn't muttered a word or put a post up on Threads? Mr. James Gunn. Now, he was real vocal in the past about projects, right? But he hasn't said anything about Coyote versus Acme, a film with which he is involved. I think because he would like to continue to work. And I do wonder if there will be ramifications for DeFaria and Green for going to the press, particularly DeFaria, and really causing a giant headache for Warner Brothers this morning. Warner Brothers, I'm sure, is like, what the heck, man? What the heck? Now, you might be like, DeFaria was right to say something, but I don't know if this would lead to more work for DeFaria. You might have just closed a lot of doors in his own face. I guess he's probably really upset about it, and I can understand that. Now, here's an interesting quote that you might have seen today. If not, I'll tell you about it. Tina Fey was on Bowen Yang's podcast, and Tina Fey was really, really funny, and she was dropping some truth bombs. And one of the things that she said was that she said authenticity is dangerous and expensive. Now, Bowen Yang has made some headlines lately for not outrightly, but covertly, but we can all tell, dissing some of the people who've been on Saturday Night Live recently. And you know what? I think, there's an argument as to why he would be, particularly because he's from the LGBT community, upset with some of the people that SNL has had on recently. So you can say well, yeah, I can see where Bowen Yang is coming from. And of course, I think they're referencing Ayo Iberi, who had some choice words years ago about Jennifer Lopez, which surfaced right before they were on SNL together. But so Tina Fey said, Bowen, authenticity is dangerous and expensive. And she gave a really good example. She said, hey, Bowen, you've been talking smack about Saltburn, but let's say Emerald Fennell has another movie that she's making, and she decides maybe she wants to cast Bowen Yang. But how can she do that if you've just said a bunch of bad stuff about her? So I thought that was an interesting comment that Tina Fey made, and I think it was good that she backed it up with an example. Just think if your comments might be costing you work down the line. I think that's very interesting. I think that's something that people rarely consider on Twitter when they're asking people to speak up or say something. They're not really thinking, it's your 5 seconds of fun, but what are the ramifications for the individual going, obviously there are some things that it's important to take a stand on, but it's something to consider. So I think that's why James Gunn, you would think that if he was going to defend anything, it would be Coyote versus Acme, because apparently it's a really good movie. But James Gunn, and it's a very James Gunn type movie also as well. But he ain't saying nothing. And he's probably so thrilled that nobody is mentioning that he's involved with this project. The Wrap could have easily said, hey, isn't James Gunn a part of this film? And they didn't. So I think that's very interesting. All right, so now apparently, the first round 1, Warner Brothers said they were going to get a tax write-off for Coyote versus Acme. And they were going to get about $30 to $40 million for writing it off, get that credit. So after everybody lost their mind and said, we hate you, Warner Brothers, and also some directors were getting nervous about working with Warner Brothers in the future because, hey, can they just shelve a movie even if it's good? They said, all right, we will offer it up to other studios to purchase the film from us, and they can release it. So the price tag they stuck on it was $75 to $80 million. They said that's what it's going to cost for us to get our money back. Although they would be happy with just a $30 to $40 million write-off. So why isn't the price somewhere around that, right? So Paramount, Netflix, and Amazon all looked at the movie. Paramount even offered a theatrical release as part of the package deal, saying we'll put it in theaters first and then we'll stick it on streaming, where of course Netflix and Amazon would send it directly to streaming. But all three parties wanted to counter, which means, interestingly, not one of them would pay $75 to $80 million for the film, even though that's what Warner Brothers has spent on it. But Warner Brothers said, did we stutter? The price is $75 to $80. And they would not accept any counter offers from anybody, and so they're still going to shelve the movie. Now, you might think, hey, maybe a legal story. I mean, there's Coyote in court with Will Forte as his lawyer. I can see why maybe Warner Brothers would be concerned that the film might not play well to audiences, particularly when you're talking about Looney Tunes, which you would think is conceivably a family brand and is not is not like an mainly an adult-only project. But then how do you explain the very high test scores? This thing is tested quite well. So that's very bizarre. Then also, Will Forte, I can understand not wanting to release a Will Forte movie. I even like Will Forte, but ain't nobody want to pay to see Will Forte in theaters. However, people do like John Cena. And he's in the film as well, which is why his picture's up there. So that sounds like maybe the film would be released. Also, there's a lot of industry enthusiasm for this movie. People in the industry now want to see it released. Fans want to see it released. Now, here's where there is salt rubbed in the wound. The Wrap also revealed, and I'm sure Warner Brothers is like, who said this? Because how on earth does The Wrap know this, right? So, it was revealed that David Zaslav never watched the film. Never even saw any version of it. Although I mentioned this to an industry friend of mine this afternoon, and they were like, does Zazzy watch any of the movies over there? I thought that was funny. I mean, I think a lot of people in the industry at this point know who Zazzy is. I know a lot of you are like, get rid of Zazie. Well, let's not forget Zazie's in charge. It's his company. He's the one who put the whole deal together in the first place for Discovery to buy Warner Brothers. There's no one to fire Zazie. Things would have to get much worse. I guess it could eventually happen. They kicked Bob Chapek out, but I think that's because Bob Iger was waiting in the wings to take back the reign of Disney. Who would take over? I think the real thing is Zazie wants to sell this thing come April. So he's just got to, at this point, I think at one point he wanted to be a Hollywood titan, but now he just wants his money. And he's already gotten $250 million, but he's going to get even more if he manages to sell this thing in April. All right, so Zazie never watched it. The two heads of Warner Brothers Films, that's Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, that's their picture there in the next story, because we're talking about Warner Brothers for two stories today. They only watched a director's cut. I guess there were multiple cuts. Even though it was testing well, apparently they were still fiddling with it. And then Warner Brothers animation head Bill DeManch, he saw the first audience preview. But apparently they had not seen the last cut of the film. And again, Zazie never saw it once. But obviously they all feel that the film is more valuable to them as a tax write-off with $30 to $40 million. Were the other studios not willing to offer anything even above that? Maybe they would offer $50 million, right? That would be more. So again, as I said, this is problematic not only with fans. Fans will get over it. What are you going to do about it, right? Are you going to not go see Dune 2? I don't think that's going to happen. If you want to see Dune, you're going to go see Dune. And also Wonka. Warner Brothers had a very good 2023, actually. They gave us Wonka. They gave us Barbie. Those are great movies. So the problem, though, for Warner Brothers is filmmakers going forward. Wouldn't you be nervous to pitch your movie to Warner Brothers, although it didn't stop Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, who we're going to talk about in a minute, but wouldn't you be, although this story hadn't broke yet before their deal came into play, and wait till you hear what Warner Brothers gave them. But would you really pitch to Warner Brothers considering that even if your movie is good, they might decide to bury it? So they get the tax write-off. It used to be they'd stick your movie on streaming. If only Coyote versus Acme was so lucky. So and I think that having your movie shelved is kind of a black eye to your career. The Batgirl directors really have not been able to recover. I think they're directing Bad Boys 4 with Will Smith. But let's see, if that movie does well, that will help them get back on track. So why on earth would Warner Brothers not want to release this movie in some way? And why won't they let somebody else release the movie? So maybe because it's part of the old regime and they just want to move on to their own movies. That could be part of it. Maybe they don't want to spend more money on advertising themselves, right? But then why not take a deal to sell it to somebody else? But maybe they're like, we're tired of losing money on this movie. Maybe it's personal at this point. Maybe Zazie didn't appreciate all the mean comments on social media, and so he wants this movie to die. I think that's very possible. Maybe also they need cash quick. Who knows how long it's going to take for Paramount or Netflix or Amazon to pay them. If they do a tax write-off, they get it this quarter. There's the thumb holes. I know you guys like the thumb holes. Woo! And then it could be maybe all four of those things. It could be like a stew of hate. And that's why, the thing to me that's the most interesting is that people talked. And I'm curious to see who talked, who didn't talk. Nobody likes it when someone makes them look bad. And they might not say anything, but they certainly recall it. And nobody likes it when you make somebody else look bad because they worry that they might be next. So those are all important things to remember, not just in Hollywood, but in any industry or social situation. So what do you guys think? All right, so we can move. That's all my thoughts on it. So we can move on to your questions and comments about this story. Was there just an earthquake in LA? How big was the earthquake? I have friends there, so it makes me a little nervous. How big was it? Juan, did you shake, rattle, and roll? Somebody says it was kind of big. Oh, was it big? Hold on. I'm texting my friend. 4.7, that's not too bad, right? 6.3 is pretty serious, Atmosphere. Be careful. Oh, my friend says, yes, they did just have an earthquake. Hold on. Oh my goodness, my poor friend. Hold on. Oh, good. Okay, not so bad where my friend was. Thank goodness. All right. All right. Whew. Be careful, everybody. All right, questions and comments back to the story. VTTV says, you don't know if you even want to see Dune. Aw, I don't know if that's true. I'm even excited for Dune at this point. I'm just excited for a new movie. Thank goodness. Stephen Turner says, after this and Netflix shelving the Halle Berry finished movie, I wonder if top-level talent will start trying to put some sort of fine or contracts. Well, I don't think Halle Berry cares, Stephen, because she gets paid either way. When you shelve these movies, everybody still gets paid. Now, there might be a back-end participation thing going on there that could be problematic, but not for a Netflix movie because they pay all their money up front. So I don't think Halle Berry really cares. Justin says, how is Zazie not getting in trouble? Well, the question is, how is the stock doing? That's all anyone cares about. Remember that epiphany we had last year, where the heads of studios don't actually care about the studio. Their job is to make money for the shareholders. And the shareholders are the ones who can decide whether or not they continue to be the head of the studio or the company. And so that is the real question. So that's all they care about, and that's all they live or die by the stock. And so as long as the stock's okay, or at least it's not going down, or it maybe has the potential to go up, that's all they care about. By the way, Warner Brothers has its own investor day on Friday, February 23rd in the morning. So I'll be covering that as well. Jason, I'm glad you're okay there. Brandon says, gotta be a quick cash grab. The tax write-off must look good. I'd like a docu-series about these movies being shelved a couple of years from now. Brandon, it would have to be a while from now. And the question is, do these people have any of their own footage? Zack Snyder was able to make movie history because he kept a print of his film because he largely worked off the lot. So he had the that's why it was black and white, by the way, because he was working with a black and white print from home. And so when they pulled the plug on him and gave the film to Whedon, he still had a full cut. He had all of his footage. That's almost unheard of. Usually when they shut down a movie, you don't have any ability. You don't have any of the footage. For instance, the Batgirl directors actually said, "If only we had our footage," but they didn't have anything. So I guess that's something to think of. You should always maybe secretly back up your footage if you're working for a big studio. Dear Little Dog 2 says Warner Brothers stock is currently at $9.80. That's hilarious. Disney stock, by the way, after their big presentation on Wednesday, shot above $100 for the first time in, I think, like a year at least. So that was pretty amazing. I think it's last I checked. Let's see what the Disney stock is at. $9.80. Yikes. Disney stock is at 108. Went down a little bit today. Bob Iger's probably like, what the? Down a little bit already. That's right, Sensation. Always keep copies and receipts. Oh, Adam bought some Disney and Warner Brothers stock. Welcome to the party. B Power says, backing up the footage and not turning it over could be a crime. That's very true, B Powers. So you really just have to dare the studio to sue you. Which is why, they had to be very careful at first with the Snyder Cut. Because, he wasn't supposed to have that footage. SMR Goose and Cool Hive SMR Goose has Disney stock and Cool Hive has one Disney share. That's okay. You can still vote for the board of directors. Okay, I think we're ready for the next story, right? Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Navy EMT says Warner Brothers is down 67% in the last year. Yeah, Zazzy's just desperately trying to get that stock up. I think maybe the shareholders, let's see if it works. I really feel like he's trying to sell the company. Let's see what happens in April. That's when he can start making serious moves, although he already did talk to Paramount at the end of the year. Fritz Fromm says, why is it illegal if you're the creator of the content? Well, you're not the owner of the content. Somebody else paid for it. I got Steven's super chat. I went back and got it. Yeah, I did the Halle Berry one. I got his super chat. It's illegal because you don't own it. The studio paid for it. And that's the real issue. A lot of people don't understand that. And that's why they think, creators are king. No, they're not, unless they raise the money themselves. But on that note, that is a perfect segue to our next story, because Ryan Coogler found a way not to have to pay for his own movie and to still eventually be the owner of it. Oh, it's amazing. All right, here we go. Story number 2. Boop. Okay, we're still talking about Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers taketh away, but they also giveth. And they gave quite substantially to Mr. Ryan Coogler. There's Ryan Coogler with Michael B. Jordan. It's their movie together. That's them at the premiere of Creed 3. I saw a lot of photos of Michael B. with Jonathan Majors standing with them. But after the Jonathan Majors expose in the New York Times yesterday, I don't think Jonathan Majors is coming back. And it's a shame. Very talented individual. Hey, Aralysis, thank you for gifting a membership. Really, horrific behavior, and on set to other, not just personally, but professionally as well. Very, very bad. All right, so Warner Brothers, there was a bidding war for Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's upcoming project. It's super secret, but a few things have leaked. By the way, this was negotiated through William Morris Endeavor, which represents both Coogler and Jordan. So therefore, it was a package deal. Package deals are a little bit easier in the studio. And the agency gets more aggressive in shopping them around because they get a substantial cut of the deal themselves. Hey, Rogue Frogger, that's a great name. Thanks for gifting a membership. I love your avatar there. That looks great. All right, so part of this project, the few details that have leaked, is that it's a period piece with the undead, featuring the undead. It's going to film in New Orleans, and it has anime influences. Now, I didn't like the anime elements of Creed 3, directed by Michael B. Jordan. But, I think, although I do think that Michael B. Jordan is a talented director, but Ryan Coogler has a lot more experience, and so maybe he'll be able to do a little bit better with the anime things. I do feel like they're making their own Blade, to be honest. Instead of vampires, it's the undead, but it's still a period piece with, I'm sure, largely characters of color, and, a horror element. So, interesting. Hey, Camus, welcome back. So I think that's an interesting choice on their part. So Warner Brothers won the deal. They won the deal over there, and people feel that DeLuca and Abdi maybe had a little bit of an edge, because where did they just come from? They came from running MGM's film division, where, of course, Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler had done the Creed movies. So they already had an in with them. All right, so everybody was wondering how Warner Brothers sweetened the deal. How did Warner Brothers get this? Well, it turns out they gave them something that hasn't been done since George Lucas in the original Star Wars movie back in the 1970s. But that was an accident. This was done intentionally. So after 25 years, the rights to this franchise, whatever it is, will go back to Ryan Coogler. Warner Brothers will no longer own them. That, to me, is fascinating, although I'm sure Ryan Coogler would be happy to make a deal where they can continue to use this franchise, but he would have more of a profit participation. Oh, it's beautiful. Speaking of Creed and Rocky, think about how Sylvester Stallone has been furious that he doesn't have any of the rights to Rocky, and how it's his legacy and money for his family. Well, this is really Ryan Coogler. If this film works out, he's really secured not only his own, Puck News broke this, and they're calling it Ryan Coogler's retirement plan, but he's also really secured the future of his family as well. And maybe some of them might want to go into filmmaking. They could direct and produce films in this franchise. So it's really a fantastic thing to do. And it's really good to kind of ensure your future like that. And I can see a number of other talent in Hollywood saying, I would love to have that reassurance and safety net for my own family. Now, of course, you couldn't get that with IP from somebody else that Marvel or DC came up with. The trick here is that Ryan Coogler came up with this himself. It's an original idea, but apparently it's very commercial. Now, the last time this happened was Star Wars, and Fox said, sure, you can keep the toy rights, George Lucas. Who wants toys from a movie? George Lucas made so much money that he was able to bankroll Lucasfilm and create Industrial Light and Magic. And that's how he created his vast fortune. So it's a lot of money. I think it's hilarious. Very, 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 very funny. All right, so it's very funny. And so because of that, Hollywood never allowed that again. They were like, they sewed up the rights, like they locked them up. The only way that you can usually get the rights to your own project is if you fund it yourself independently, and then you get a studio deal down the line just for distribution. But because Warner Brothers is coming in like very early on in the process and is going to be paying and providing the budget for the movie, usually they would have at least an ownership stake forever. But instead, the entire rights revert back to Ryan Coogler after 25 years. Now, you might be like, that's a really freaking long time. But just think about how now, 100 years, when they started the copyright law, they were like, 100 years seems like a long time to us. It should be fine if it's only for 100 years. And yet now it's becoming a major headache for the Disney company and soon DC. And so that's the only way that you can really, so 100 years, so after 25 years, you know, if this is good enough, this franchise could be something that puts out content forever. Mika says Tarantino also has a 25-year reversion on his directing deals with the legacy of his arrangements with Miramax and Weinstein. Well, yeah, so he got, that's interesting, Mika. That's very interesting to hear with Kill Bill and Jackie Brown. But those are like, what's he going to do with those? I mean, that's real nice that he has the rights to Kill Bill and Jackie Brown, but here we're talking about a franchise, something that would be able to put out, multiple films, maybe have an animated series, merchandise, theme park. This is the kind of project that Coogler is pitching. But that's great that, I wonder if the 25-year Mika set a precedent for the period of time that Ryan Coogler asked for. And I also wonder, by the way, because William Morris Endeavor negotiated that deal, if they get a cut of this forever. That to me would be fascinating. Or at the very least, if they continue to represent Ryan Coogler and his family, they would get a portion of the profits that way. Will this be valuable? Will this, can Ryan Coogler deliver something that would be valuable very much so 25 years from now? Well, I think based on the strength of not just Black Panther, but Creed, he very much can. And by the way, I think Ryan Coogler is one of the few people, besides Jordan Peele, who have been able to do representative content that usually focuses on just one demographic, and yet it's had very broad appeal in terms of who goes to see the movie. That's the name of the game. You want, especially with stuff that you want to have a high return. A little movie can have, niche appeal, but you want these movies to do well, and for that to happen, you need to have different demographics come out to see them. Although it is very important to have the base demographic supporting the film. The Black community came out very strongly for Black Panther, but not so much for The Color Purple, interestingly enough, the new one. All right, so that's my thoughts on it. Let's move on to your questions and comments. Like Blair Wraith, who says, it's not too late to make a Kill Bill, though with Zendaya, not too late to make a... What do you mean? What do you mean with... I'm not sure what you're talking about with Zendaya, but, you mean when she would be the grown-up daughter, maybe? I could maybe see that happening, although didn't Quentin Tarantino say this was his last movie coming up, right, or something like that? But yeah, maybe. That's true. He could do a Kill Bill 3, and he'd be able to do it wherever he wanted to. He could shop it around. Hey, 7 Seconds Arise. Welcome back. Brian Brown says, Grace, first Coogler declined to direct Secret Wars, and now he's working with Warner Brothers. Could Coogler be Warner Brothers' new Christopher Nolan? Even Christopher Nolan doesn't get the rights to his films back, right? But he just made so much money off of Oppenheimer. I'm curious to see who else will start asking for this and if they'll be able to get it. I think it's interesting that Coogler did leave Disney. And I think it's great that he went to Warner. Warner Brothers used to be a great home for directors. And so because, Brian, they're kind of low on directors, they're obviously going to prioritize Coogler. And that might be partially why he got this deal. They just really wanted to make sure that he came to the studio. Adam Sphere says, do people like zombies though? I think they might be played out. There's a real possibility of that, but I really would not underestimate Ryan Coogler. I think he's incredibly talented. Justin says, do you think this will be a future thing for directors and creatives to ensure they get their rights back? Heck yeah. If I had any pull at all for my original ideas, I would ask my representation to put this in my request for the pitch that I would want 25 years from now. I would want my rights to revert back to me. Haunted Autumn says, 25 years sounds like a great deal when you were young. In reality, if you're lucky, that's at minimum a third of your life. Creatives should get rights back after 10 years. No way, Haunted Autumn. I can understand where you're coming from, but no way a studio would ever sign that deal. They would not it wouldn't be worth their time and investment. They're like, I think that the studio would go, why should we create? Because, make no mistake, the studio will be partially responsible for creating that successful franchise with, the money that they invest in it and pay for it, the ad campaign that they run, the awards campaign that they run. It's just not worth it to them. They would not pay that revenue. Now, I'm not saying, Haunted Autumn, that maybe Lionsgate couldn't say, well, we'll do it. We'll give it to you in 10 years if you bring it over here, because they wouldn't be getting those kind of franchises. But they might go, well, now maybe we will if we offer a sweeter deal like that. So there's something there. But I really feel that what Ryan Coogler is trying to get, this is really about your family, and this just goes to speak to your legacy, but what you leave behind. And that's like a company, family, all that. I think that's all very much in there. But I don't think any major studio would agree to 10 years. I think you could get a small studio to maybe agree to that. Blair Wraith is pointing out that Paramount is trying to get the Friday the 13th rights back from the guy who owns it. Boy, how much must he be asking for Pete's sake? That's right, Joe87. 28 Days Later is coming back, and that's also a zombie film. Oh, zombies are coming back whether you like it or not. And then Mika is pointing out is that maybe Warner Brothers didn't bid for 28 Days Later because they wanted this one. Potentially. I don't know. Maybe they bid aggressively for it, though. You just don't know. That's right, Green Lantern's Light. That's a good way to put it. Generational wealth. I think don't underestimate the importance of generational wealth. I think people used to think a lot about just getting money for themselves, but I think now more people focus on getting money for their family. Even the family that's around today. How can you just elevate your entire family? Mr. Magic, that's a good point. The undead could be vampires. They do qualify as undead. It's not necessarily zombies. Although if Ryan Coogler is making a period vampire movie in New Orleans starring Michael B. Jordan, I would say Dem's fighting words with Marvel for Blade. Hey, Ricardo Sanchez. JF, I would agree with you that generational wealth is difficult to attain these days, particularly because they got rid of the middle class. But then, that's why people do invest in the stock market. That's why you're supposed to set up retirement funds. I would advise everybody to look into these things. They're very hard to understand, and they seem very adult, right? You're like, what? But I think you'd be surprised at how quickly you could start to maybe get into this a little bit. Pumpkin DeShazer, that's a great point about maybe a voodoo element with the New Orleans angle. I would love that. We never got a good Brother Voodoo in the MCU, which I think some of us are still frustrated about. Oh, thank you for donating a membership, Stephen and Writer Boy. All right, you guys want to go to the next story? Let's go to it does sound like AMC's Interview with the Vampire Little Dog, too. It definitely sounds like that. All right, here we go. Hold on. And then we'll get to the Q&A. Story number 3. Boop. All right. So this will be a quicker one. That's Dan Trachtenberg, who directed the Prey movie. I didn't exactly care for that film, as you might recall from my review. However, it did very well on Hulu. In fact, it broke streaming records for the service, at least when it was released, during the pandemic. It was supposed to be a theatrical release. However, when Disney acquired Fox, the reason they put it on Hulu was not because they didn't believe in the film, but because they were upset that it would then go to streaming to HBO Max at the time, because Fox had that deal in place, as you might recall. And they were like, no, we want all the prey viewership for ourselves. So that's why they decided to put it on Hulu. And they were right to do that because it did extremely well. Look, I covered up that poor Predator's face with the red box. I'm not a huge Predator fan, I have to tell you, but people really do like it, especially when you make the movie for cheap, which is what Dan Trachtenberg was able to deliver. Now, Dan Trachtenberg, that's right, Adam Sphere, I agree. I was just going to say that. He directed Ted and Cloverfield Lane, which I thought was a fantastic film. Remember, it was John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Remember that they were stuck in an underground bunker? That was a fantastic film. So Dan Trachtenberg got from that, he went on to do Prey. And it did so well that now Disney Fox is like, do you want to make another Predator movie? And he's like, heck yeah, I do. I most certainly do. So he's written a new movie which takes place, again, it's under wraps, although I'm glad it's a little under wraps. Some of the Deadpool 3 spoilers that are coming out today, the trailer is literally 2 days away. I'm very upset about the potential title the title being spoiled. I mean, I really would have liked to have seen that with the reveal of the trailer. So I really hope that it's incorrect. But I'm pretty upset about that. So be very careful on Twitter. I'm pretty upset about that. That's right. Don't spoil it in the chat, please. I guess maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it, but I'm kind of annoyed about it. All right. If anyone types it in the chat, I will ban you from commenting. So don't do that. Okay, because it's just too mean a thing to do. All right. So anyway, he's going to make another Predator movie. It takes place in the future. It will also have a female lead, and I'm sure it will be inexpensive to make. I'm sure it'll be very, very cheap. And so they said Trachtenberg is doing other Predator projects. But to me, what's the most interesting thing here from a business perspective is, hey, Popcorn Roulette, thanks for gifting a membership. I think what's really interesting to me is, can Disney Fox really get Predator and Alien back up off the ground? That would be incredible if they were able to do that. And of course, Alien Romulus is coming this summer. I heard they were going to have an Alien trailer at the Super Bowl, but then I heard it was pulled. The movie's still coming out. Everything's going great, but I heard that they decided not to do an Alien trailer. I was a little sad about that. I think that would have been huge. But I did hear we're probably going to get Twisters. So I think the only really big trailers that are left that we have not come out already, let me tell you right now, I believe it's Deadpool 3, Wicked, and in my opinion, Twisters. Let's see. Apes, we already saw something for Apes. So, I'm excited to get new stuff. Stuff we haven't seen. That's why I wish they'd held A Quiet Place's trailer until game day. I was very frustrated that they dropped that early. So that's what I think. And again, I can't guarantee any of those trailers, just to be clear. Just wink, okay? But the only one that Twisters, I'm pretty sure on, but I'm pretty sure. Very, very sure as I can be without being 100% for the other two. No, Danny, they're not going to do any Warner Brothers trailers. We could be surprised, but the word on the street is they're not. And people would be furious if they spent $7 million on a Super Bowl spot and that they just killed Coyote versus Acme. Let's see here. Oh, that's funny, Ben Green. I wonder if Twisters will have, if it does debut on Sunday, if there will be a flying cow. That would be a great idea. There should be. Silver Scale, I think they drop the Super Bowl trailers if they feel they can't compete. So, that's another reason why you shouldn't drop them. But I think they're like, we want people to make sure they see it, and they see it and they pay attention to it. Although a lot of people aren't on social media and the internet, so which is why they still play it during the Super Bowl. Jason Acker says, I worked with Dan when I was working on the score for 10 Cloverfield Lane. Ooh, look at you, Jason, and his episode of Black Mirror. He's a great guy and super talented. How that film ended up as it did is an interesting story. Oh, Jason, hidden depths. Hidden depths, Jason. Haunted Autumn says, Prey was a phenomenal film and added such depth to the lore and had a badass female character that transcended the toxicity of modern fandom. You got that right. I wish we had gotten more with Amber Midthunder's character. Well, it's not her character, but who's to say maybe it's not an ancestor? Maybe she's in the movie, right, playing her descendant? I mean, I think, that would be a nice thing to do, maybe. Let's see what he decides to do. Although I'm not surprised they didn't do a Prey sequel. I don't really know where you would go from there. Hey, 80s model, thanks for gifting a membership. Oh, that's very sweet of you, Stu. Pew, pew. Yes, if you could like the live stream and consider subscribing, I would certainly appreciate it. Doesn't cost you anything to do that, and it would make me very happy. All right, Q&A time, baby. Booyah. All right, Q&A time. You can ask me anything you'd like for 10 minutes. It is 5:16 until 5:26. You can ask me anything that you'd like, and I might answer it. Oh, Poke says, what are your thoughts on the Knuckles trailer? I gotta tell you, Sonic just ain't for me, but I was extremely impressed with the production values and the actors they got to join in. I thought it looked very much like the movies, movie level. So I was impressed with that for a streaming service. I am not watching the new Feud. I watched the first episode and I loved it. But then I thought they don't have enough story to sustain a series, in my opinion. But it did make me Google Truman Capote a whole bunch. And I wish that it was more of a series about Truman Capote and how he created this persona and how he became, one of the first out celebrities in pop culture in America. And I think that would have been really nice to pay more attention to than what it seems the route they're taking. Mika says, Dune Part 2 pre-sales are very strong at 65 million. That's not very strong. I mean, it's higher than the other Dune movie, but, it's a big blockbuster like that is supposed to open much higher. 65 is still a little on the low side. And I got to tell you, outside of the big cities, the ticket sales are still lackluster. Steven says, Gaga posted herself in some studio teasing something coming soon. Could be new music, but also curious if Joker related for Valentine's Day. They better not ruin my frickin' Valentine's Day. But maybe. I haven't heard about anything coming, but I wouldn't be surprised because they've done that. I think they did that for Valentine's Day last year. 80s model says, Grace, what's the best X-Men movie to watch? Hands down, X2. No question. It goes X2 in my opinion, and then X-Men Days of Future Past, and then Logan. But Logan's just going to make you cry all over the place. You guys want a poll? We'll do what's the best X-Men movie to watch. I can only put 4 in there. Hold on. Sorry, I can only put 4 in here. So we'll do X2, Days of Future Past, Logan, and then I guess we should put the original X-Men. What should be the other one in the vote? I can only put 4 in there. First Class? I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan, Adam Sphere. I love him. No, Deadpool side. No, I don't do that. Okay, we'll put First Class. I don't like it, but I can see a lot of you would want to put it in there. Okay, so there's the poll. Let me go back. I missed some questions here. Hold on. Anyone can vote in a poll, by the way. You don't have to be a member to vote in the poll. Only members can participate in the chat, but anyone can vote in the poll. All right, let me go back and see what I missed here. Oh, Riley, you retracted your message. Brett says, hey, Grace, long time since I've gotten to chat. What's with the Pedro Pascal Fantastic Four situation? Yeah, that was crazy. Did you see what happened there? So SAG-AFTRA was doing some kind of a discussion with Pedro Pascal, and they said he's excited to soon begin filming Fantastic Four, which was, oops. And then Matt Shankman shared that on his Instagram stories. He shared like a screen grab of that story. And then the next day, he deleted his Instagram account. They're really getting really, really tricky about spoilers. They're circling the wagons in Hollywood, which is why I have to be extra careful. They're not messing around anymore. Jesse the Good Witch says, Happy Lunar New Year. Happy Lunar New Year to you, too. Is that today? Year of the Wood Dragon tomorrow. You're an 88 Earth Dragon yourself. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what dragon year what Lunar New Year I am. But I do appreciate Lunar New Year, and I'm glad it's becoming one of those holidays that everybody pays attention to. I've certainly enjoyed it. Derek, I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about a Beetlejuice trailer, but I would assume pretty close, pretty soon, because they put a poster out. You like the Booyah sensation? I'm glad to hear that. All right, hold on. Danny says, Hi, Grace. Thoughts about the new Game of Thrones spin-off about Aegon's conquest? I'm actually not happy about it, Danny, because I thought we were all supposed to be paying attention to House of the Dragon. So I think there should be only one Game of Thrones show at a time, and I think that it's important that everybody be on the same page. So I'd like to see House of the Dragon finish first before we do another show. Will R says, Godzilla -1 watch-along? Maybe. I haven't done a watch-along in a long time, but I don't know when that movie's hitting. Let me see if it's... Any updates on that? They don't even have a section for it on iTunes, so it's probably going to be a while. Let's see here. Ricky says, with Moana and Wicked dropping together, do you think they will have a Barbenheimer moment and help each other's box office? My friend Daniel says, hi, by the way. Hi, Daniel. No, I don't think they'll help each other because I think they appeal to the same audience. The whole thing about Barbenheimer is that they were such different movies. I think, they sucked... Because of Barbenheimer had such broad appeal, everybody was able to participate. Whereas I think Moana and Wicked don't really expand who's interested in those movies anyway. And that's the thing. People who normally wouldn't watch Barbie watched it, and people who normally wouldn't watch Oppenheimer watched it because they had to complete the challenge. Riley Gagnon says, Grace, would you do a Dune Part 1 watch-along? I appreciate you asking, Riley, but I don't want to watch that again. I just want to focus on New Dune. I'm seeing it earlier than you think. Chris says, Grace, do you think Deadpool will actually help Marvel get back on his feet, even with Hugh Jackman returning? Well, yeah, because he's supposed to be a part of, maybe, in Secret Wars, so it's not like he's one and done. I sure hope it helps. It's not good for the industry that Marvel is not doing well. I know some people just want to watch the world burn, but I'm not one of those people. Michael McKenna says, missed most of the stream and time for the Q&A. Thoughts on Leech leaving Jurassic? Oh, Michael, we had a good time. Some tea was spilled and some shade was thrown. Or shade was cast. So you can go back and look at that. Let's see here. Michael Hartshorn says, can you give us a hint as to what your big thing is that you were excited about? Oh, it's just a new type of video that I'm going to do on Sunday night. So if you're around on Sunday, keep an eye out for that. That's all I want to say. Adam Sphere says, how much damage did Argyle do to Matthew Vaughn? A ton of damage. I'd be surprised if he was able. I think he'd have a very hard time working again. Brian Brown says, Grace, on their Club Shay Shay interview with Monique, she was having issues with getting residuals from her show. Isn't SAG supposed to protect actors in that situation? I think they are supposed to protect actors in that situation, but they also want to be friends with the studios. So it's very tricky. Sensation, before the Super Bowl, I'm going to make movie math. Then I'm going to have a light dinner and watch probably Shark Tank as a palate cleanser. And then I'm going to react to the Super Bowl trailers. Shamar says, do you think there will be a Moana trailer at the Super Bowl? There might be. But I don't know if there can be because there isn't a deal in place yet for Dwayne Johnson or that was the other story I was considering for today. I forgot. Dwayne Johnson and Ahi Kravaho do not have deals in place to voice the characters, which means, by the way, that they were not going to voice the characters in the series, which to me is fascinating. But now that it's a theatrical release, they want them to be involved, so they're trying to cut deals. Maybe they could cut deals very quickly and get them to do a spot for the Super Bowl. But I have not heard anything about Moana 2 as a Super Bowl trailer, beyond maybe just showing what we already saw. Danny, the next BTT Inside Access stream will be after Valentine's Day, and I'll pick that date then. Silver Scale, I'm glad you're excited for my new stuff. Riley Steele says, Grace, do you think the Max Dune series will in fact get the official green light? Well, it was such a mess, Riley. I think they'll probably, if I had to guess, see how the new Dune does. And if it really does well, they'll be like, wow, people really like Dune. Let's give them a series. But I think they're probably waiting to see how the movie does. Staggervore, I don't think Pedro Pascal has been confirmed for Fantastic Four. Because why did Matt Shankman delete his account? Like, what is taking so long? I'm very, very surprised. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. Again, I hope they're maybe changing some of the actors. But I am in favor of Marvel taking as long as they need to get stuff right, because it's been a bit of a mess lately. Haunted Autumn. Oh, you're looking forward? Yeah, there's a Dune 2 fan first screening on February 25th. So you'll be many people will see this film quite early, and I think they're having the screening for fans first so early because it opens overseas around then. Hey, Danny Dunphy, thanks for upgrading to Inside Access. LP says, I thought animation voices took years. Well, usually what happens in animation is that the voice work is done first and then the actors are recorded for inspiration for the animators. However, this was clearly a last-minute decision, and so this movie will have been animated without the main actors that you're used to as reference material. Then, basically, they'll sign a deal, come back in, and do dialogue replacement. They'll come in and revoice the characters, which, sometimes there's dialogue replacement that's done even with the original actors for some things. But that's clearly what they're going to do. And I guess maybe they could come in and maybe tweak it a little bit to fit the voice reading. But since the dialogue won't change, the lines won't change, they'd probably be able to make it pretty close. I told you, I'm very concerned about the quality of the animation on Moana 2 because it wasn't done for theatrical release. So I am worried about how it's going to come across. I don't know if it's going to be Disney's A game, but at this point, maybe even their B+ game or even their B game will be enough. AG68, I'm glad you enjoyed the sunset during today's stream. Dre Films, I don't know what's taken so long on the Penguin series. Maybe they want to have it come close. You know what my guess would be? Closer to Batman 2, because then you get excited for Batman 2. And who knows what's taking Batman 2 so long. You'd think we'd have casting announcements by now. Jay says, I'm way out of the loop on Fantastic Four. Did they not try to get Margot Robbie back in the running? No, Invisible Woman is locked. I think Reed and Sue are locked. Ricardo Sanchez says, heard a rumor that Sam Raimi might direct Secret Wars. You would love that. Thoughts? My thoughts? Oh, thanks for gifting some memberships, Mark. I don't like Sam Raimi. I think Sam Raimi, while I certainly respect him as a director, I thought that his directing on the first Spider-Man was uninspired, even though it went well. And I also felt he did a horrible job with Multiverse of Madness. So I don't want him anywhere near Secret Wars. I'd kind of like Destin Daniel Cretton to do it, since he dropped out of Kang. Justin Bocci says, do you think Lin-Manuel Miranda not coming back from Moana will potentially hurt the film? Yes, I do think it would hurt the film. If I were Disney, I'd be on the phone with him right now saying, how fast can you do one song? I don't care if it's even just for the credits, man. I need one song so I can stick you on the red carpet and have you talk about the film. Mr. Magic, I'm not sure we're going to get an Agatha trailer. My guess would probably be Comic-Con or D23. Sneaky, the Madam Web review embargo lifts the day before release on February 13th at 9 a.m. Mickey3 Yup says Sonic fans expect Kristen Ritter to voice Rogue, a sassy treasure hunter / spy. Some are afraid she voices Amy, a young hedgehog who fangirls over Sonic. Do you think it could hurt the movie or Ritter? That's such a funny question, Mick. I love it. I love your enthusiasm for the Sonic films. I would be surprised if they would waste Kristen Ritter on a fangirl hedgehog. All right, let me do shout outs because it's 5:30 already. Hold on. All right, what are you up to? What are you doing? So I can just say hi and then I got to go. And I'll see you on Sunday for a mega day of movie math and Super Bowl trailers. Yes, that's right, Danny. We got 3 streams this week. Where was that? Somebody said something. Where'd it go? SMR Goose says, I get the TV before the Super Bowl. What should I watch? Don't you want to watch the pregame show? I love seeing the teams take the field and all the graphics, and they talk about the Super Bowl and legacy and honor. That's always fun to me. But I can't even watch that anymore because they drop trailers during the pregame. But that's, for me, one of the things that I enjoyed quite a bit. Oh, yeah, close the poll. Thank you so much for reminding me. Hold on, then I'll get back to shout-outs. All right, so 36 Days of Future Past 1, I guess because it has both casts in it. But 36% said Days of Future Past, 32% right behind it for X2, 22% for Logan, and then 8% actually voted for First Class. I wouldn't think that'd have any votes. But there you go. Those are the best movies. I think they're all on, is X2 on Disney Plus right now? Staggervore is baking a banana cream pie for the Super Bowl. Oh, that's fantastic. Not just for clowns, for Super Bowl fans. I love it. John Thrasher says, in Pittsburgh, wanting to go to the movies but don't want to see anything playing. John, did you see Anyone But You? That happened to me last weekend, and I went to see Anyone But You, and I had a good time. Travis L. Marshall says, at work celebrating that Chip Kelly is leaving my UCLA Bruins. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Travis. Silver Scale says, I just watched X1 on Disney Plus, so X2 should also be there. Ooh, excellent. Miguel Labrador says, driving home, now listening in. Glad I could join. Oh, and it's Friday and you're on the way home? That's great. You must feel great. Hey, Matt in Michigan. Ricardo Sanchez says, going to see Anyone But You in cinemas tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Hey, Brian and Ricardo. Hey, Mark Lavelle. Let's see here. Jay Kelly says, halftime show will be the highlight. That's true. I'm excited to see what Usher puts together, but I'll have to see it after the fact. Raphael says, getting ready for Brazilian Carnival. Oh, that's fantastic. That's a really good time for sure. Mr. Magic says, we're keeping him company while he vacuums in Portland. I love that. Oh, but see, Steven said X2 is not on Disney Plus. That's right. I saw a headline the other day that said it was coming to Disney Plus soon. Joe87 says, I'm in bed reading the history of the Vikings and eating pizza. What a way to celebrate National Pizza Day, Joe. Oh, I love it. And I love that I'm a part of that. That sounds like a party. Haunted Autumn says, about to make a beer run in Minnesota. Thanks to you and all the BTT community for giving me this much needed reprieve from the stress of life. I'm so glad you feel that way, Haunted Autumn. That makes me feel very nice. And kudos to everybody for contributing to that. Stephen Turner, thank you for pointing out that Chico's birthday is coming up. 50 Pence says, what's your next advanced screening? I have screenings set for both Dune and Madam Web. And I'm watching some pretty awesome screeners right now. That's my Friday evening. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm going to have chicken with almonds and Parmesan cheese, watermelon for dessert, and I'm going to watch the hell out of those screeners. And I can't wait. Poke, that's so sweet of you to ask. My friend is great after that in LA. They're fine. They said it wasn't that bad where they were. Let's see here. Adam Sphere says, just finished Downton Abbey Season 3 in Hawaii. Oh, yeah, Adam Sphere. That was a big season. Oh, Downton Abbey's a great show. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. Next, after you finish that, go to the Gilded Age. Kay Walton? Maybe Kay Walton. Navy EMT says, sitting on the beach in Florida, enjoying the sounds of the waves. Oh, wow. That sounds wonderful. Diego Robles says, in LA, counting the hours till work is done so I can go to a Galentine's, paint and sip with friends. That sounds wonderful. Good for you. David Q says, finishing work and going to my best friend's birthday dinner. Mexican menu it is. Ooh, I love Mexican food. You're having fajitas, maybe? I like that dab and the hype emoji, David. My Mexican go-to order, I feel so sad. My favorite Mexican restaurant in the whole wide world is at downtown Disney at Disneyland. And unfortunately, it's closing. It might have already closed, but that was the best Mexican food ever. I know it's probably not authentic Mexican food, but that was my favorite. I really love fajitas. My favorite fajita is a shrimp fajita, but I also do enjoy a steak or chicken burrito. Oh, you're making me want Mexican food. So delicious. Michael McKenna says, on my way to the grocery store in Chicago to stock up for the Super Bowl. Oh, wow, Michael, you are having a party with 20 to 30 people. I love that. Let's see here. Hey, Aubrey Smalls in Arizona. 50 Pence says X2 is on Disney Plus in Australia. Well, that's not here in America. Sean McGuire says making a pizza and patiently waiting for Sunday, but only for something from Wicked, not the game. That's okay, Sean. However you're excited, you're excited. And that's great that you're making your own pizza. Ricardo Sanchez says, love a Friday stream. Watching Upgraded after this. Oh, yeah, we talked about that on Movie Math last week. That's the new Prime Video rom-com. I hope it's good. It looked pretty good, actually. Adria recommends ponchos in Kansas City. Is that what you're talking about? Steve, I'm so glad you enjoy my streams. Love to you in LA as well. And Justin Bocci says, super excited for the Super Bowl and all your coverage. Thanks, Justin. We're going to have a really good time. I can't wait. I might wear a Super Bowl shirt. I had some friends who went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, and they got me a Super Bowl shirt. But my only concern is that it's the colors of the 49ers, and I don't want anyone to get upset with me because I have the colors, not their team. But aren't they both red? Both teams have red as their color, right? So I think I can wear it. Silver Scale says, this stream always peps me up. That makes me so happy. I love it. And then Joe87 says, last time I went to Disneyland, I did the restaurant run. Started with Pirates of the Caribbean and worked my way around the park. You're making me miss Disney. I love Disney so much. And then VTTV says, thinking about watching the OG Ghostbusters with my sister. Do it. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, Chico, your birthday's on the Super Bowl? That's going to be a crazy day. You're getting a lot of trailers for your birthday. And Ivan Sarmiento says, here in Mexico, recently out of COVID and excited to watch the final episodes of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Oh, Ivan, you're going to love them. What a cliffhanger ending. And then Rob says, excited for new content on Sunday. Thank you. Movie Math is my Sunday ritual. That makes me so happy, Rob. I'm honored to be a part of your Sundays. All right, everybody, I better get going. I got to make my Super Bowl graphics, actually. So I'll see you soon. And so the next time I'll be up is on Sunday for Movie Math. And then, of course, all the trailers, I'll be covering them in the evening. All right, everybody, bye. Bye-bye. Toodles. That's right, Ricky. Toodles.